Thank you for downloading this in-ear entertainment podcast. You're listening to Shakespeare's Sonnets. Sonnet 21. So is it not with me as with that Muse, stirred by a painted beauty to his verse, who heaven itself for ornament doth use, and every fair with his fair doth rehearse, making a couplement of proud compare with sun and moon, with earth and sea's rich gems, with April's firstborn flowers and all things rare, that heaven's air in this huge rondure hems. Oh, let me, true in love, but truly right, and then believe me, my love is as fair as any mother's child, though not so bright as those gold candles fixed in heaven's air. Let them say more like of hearsay well, I will not praise that purpose not to sell. That was Sonnet 21 from Shakespeare's Sonnets. I'm Mark Chatterley, and I'm joined by, although can't see today, or no, I can see, but he can't see me, Thierry Heles. Oh, you should introduce yourself. Sorry, you can do that.
It's too late now. You've done it.
I'm ruining the patter. This isn't good.
We need to keep listeners on their feet. Just change it up every once in a while.
Yeah, wake them up if they're listening to them in a run. So Sonnet 21, we're still really at the beginning of the fair youth sonnets, aren't we?
We are indeed, yes.
It feels like the whole selection of sonnets is just the fair youth, but it does change eventually. Once we get into the hundreds, it changes.
Which is still a far way off.
Yeah, it's still a far way off, but these are quite interesting. This one, to me, it seems to mirror one of the earlier sonnets that I quite liked. I can't remember the numbers because I'm useless like that, but it was the one before where Shakespeare was basically saying, where he was addressing himself as the writer and basically saying, I'm not going to lie, I'm only going to say what's true because I don't want people to think I'm a poet and I'm embellishing. And this kind of has the same theme to it, I think.
It does. I can't remember the number either, but that is a recurring theme as well. That's something that will pop up again and again, where he's referring to the poet himself or to actually Shakespeare himself.
And it seems to be in this. I mean, I'm guessing painted beauty refers to, which is in the second line, refers to makeup and that kind of stuff.
I read it as that. Yes. Well, he does go on and paint quite a few nice images in this one, which perhaps today we would consider cliche, but I guess at Shakespeare's time, using the sun and moon with earth and sea's rich gems, which today is probably something that would get a lot of red ink if you wrote it in school. But
yeah, too cliched, too traditionally poetic, I guess.
But then Shakespeare is traditionally poetic, so I guess that works.
I quite like on those lines, it's with sun and moon, with earth and sea's rich gems, with April's firstborn flowers, and then Shakespeare kind of goes, oh, bugger, I can't be bothered to think of anything else, and all things rare. I just quite like that. It's one of the few instances where it looks to me like he's sacrificed poetic license just to get the rhyme in with compare.
He might have done. But then we had the discussion before, and we went. He chose every word very carefully.
Yeah.
So
maybe he was having an off day.
Maybe. Or maybe he's trying not to take it too seriously.
Well, that is that. Yeah, that's the problem. We're going to read in because it's Shakespeare. He probably did mean everything.
I mean, there's things in there like my love is as fair as any mother's child. Thought not so bright as those gold candles fixed in heaven's air. It's almost too much to think that he took it seriously.
Yeah, it's a bit over the top, I guess.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've heard stars referred to as gold candles fixed in heaven's air. That's a lovely image.
It actually is.
And it's quite Christmassy. We're recording this. This is going to go out well into the new year, probably the first week or second week of the new year. But we're recording this about 4 days before Christmas, so I think that's quite a nice Christmassy, Christmassy image. That little cheruby angels holding candles, and that's what the stars are. I quite like that.
I mean, they probably had those sorts of images of heaven at the time. I guess
Yeah.
some people might do that today, but
That God lives up on the cloud with his big beard and lots of fat little naked children running around with harps.
that's quite a disturbing image. That is.
That's what all the paintings show.
That is, yeah.
It's a bit weird. But there's an awful word in here that I didn't know. Maybe that's just my ignorance. Rondure. Rondure I thought was quite an interesting word. In maybe 7th or 8th line.
Something round, but I don't quite... Did you look it up?
I did before, and again, it's completely slipped my mind. In that heaven's air in this huge rondure hems.
I'll look it up. It sounds like something round.
Let's have a rondure, a circular and gracefully rounded object. That's quite nice. And you can listen to it. I don't know if this will be picked up by the podcast, but there's a very weird American pronunciation of this. There is. Rondure.
Which, sorry, which might be closer to what Shakespeare might have pronounced it at the time.
Yes, and I think we touched on that before, didn't we? That the American
we did.
accent
Yes,
might be, or I vaguely remember reading about it that the kind of old English accent is probably very similar to the American accent, which is it's weird. But that kind of assumes that the American accent has never moved on.
Well, it probably has. I mean, that language works that way, but it might have moved on less so than here.
Yeah, I don't know why that
maybe
would
not
be,
exposed less to other languages.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, obviously they had the American Indians, but they didn't really understand the language. They didn't really care about the language either. They just slaughtered them. But
yeah,
they were not really. I mean, around here we still had the French and the Germans and quite a lot of other dialects and languages that we're trying to push in on English,
and it affect the way we said things and the words we use. I suppose that does make sense. What else? Anything else in this sonnet jump out at you at all?
I'm wondering if the first line, that Muse, if that is a personification. It might be the one I have, but the one I'm looking at has a capital M.
Yeah, same here. So is it not with me as with that Muse?
So I wonder if he's referring to a specific person.
Well, the Muses in Greek mythology were
actual.
Yeah, there was 9 of them. Is that right? Or I'm missing my ancient Greek. But there was one Muse of poetry. So maybe it's a reference to that specific Muse. I do know my one piece of random knowledge about the Muses is I know one of them pissed off Zeus, which is not something you should have done.
But then quite a lot of gods and semi-gods pissed off Zeus. That's how most of their stories started.
That's true. They were so pissed off Zeus. But all of the Muses had eternal life and eternal youth, and one of them pissed off Zeus somehow. And so he took away their eternal youth, but let them keep their eternal life, which I thought was lovely.
That's evil.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I hope it is, because it's a nice bit of knowledge I've got.
Calliope apparently is the. There's a few. That's epic poetry, and then we have Euterpe, which is flutes and lyrical poetry.
Wow.
And then we have Thalia, which is comedy and pastoral poetry.
Is there a Muse of rap?
Erato, which is love poetry, which is probably the closest, and Polyhymnia, which is sacred poetry. They really love their poetry, the Greeks do.
They did. It obviously was a very well looked upon pastime.
Well, they didn't really have reality TV shows, so
that's true. Everyone was eager and sat around the campfire waiting for the latest sonnet to be released.
Though I have a feeling they did have bad ones at the time as well. That's what happens.
But I think in ancient Greek times the stories of the gods were like their reality TV. They seem very written.
Yeah.
In that kind of, I don't know if this is going to have some people screaming, but if you read even Norse mythology and Greek mythology and Roman mythology, it seems to follow the same patterns that modern day soap operas follow. which is like picking up on important issues of the time, and then the gods would act out certain resolutions, and there'd always be a lesson learned at the end, and it's very much the same formula that soaps follow.
Well, they had the whole. I mean, quite a lot of them start with love as well, or jealousy, and I mean, we had Troy. Well, that actually happened, but the Trojan War that was just. I mean, there's legends and myths surrounding it, but that was basically jealousy and love.
Yes, and then jealousy, love, and death.
Exactly.
Everything leads to death in the end. Let's bring it back.
That's very cheery for. Well,
yes.
we should say we are recording this on the 21st, so this is the end of the world. You may never ever get to hear these.
I'm very everyone this morning, because I'm going to go off on them now. Everyone this morning was saying 11 minutes past 11. Where did that come into it? That seems a very modern.
I don't know. I mean,
because I'm quite into all my occulty stuff, and I've never heard the 11 minutes past 11 interpretation of this before. That seems to have just randomly appeared today.
I think people are just I mean, what was the last one? Was supposed to be September 18th. 1624, 1618, when the Mayan calendar, the last period on their Mesoamerican calendar ended. I was just wondering if they had the same sort of panic back then.
Probably. I don't know. Would it have been as pervasive through the culture? I mean, that's
probably not. Well, that's basically the point in the end. It's just saying the world is going to end on the 31st of December because there's no sheet on the calendar left to turn over to.
Yeah, and there's I think is it the end of this year or the end of next year is when the original Animal Crossing calendar on the old NES finishes. So that must mean something. It's just we humans like attributing value and meaning to things which are quite frankly meaningless and. We're having a very cheerful sonnet.
Merry Christmas, Mark.
Yes, Merry Christmas. And this sonnet is actually meant to be quite, I don't know, it feels like it should be quite upbeat, but it doesn't seem to, having read it, maybe it's because it's not as colourful as some of his other sonnets. It doesn't, to me, give me the happy feeling that I think Shakespeare was intended.
It just, as I said it before, it's just too much to... I mean, yes, it's upbeat, but it's lines like, "Oh, let me true in love, but truly right, and then believe me." It's like, I don't know. He sounds like a drunk guy walking down the street going, "I love you."
That's... The drunk sonnets. I can, and the last two lines, I quite like the last two lines. Let them say more, that like of hearsay well, I will not praise that purpose not to sow. The idea that I'm not going to sow you, so I'm not going to, big you up. Because that's the only time you should ever really compliment something, because if you're going to sell it. And then when you put that in the context that this is a love poem, it just takes on again that seedy quality that seems to be in all of these sonnets. Is there's this seedy creepiness for it. I don't know. I might have to do some actual research into proper Shakespeare scholars to see if anyone else is reading all this creepy seediness into it, or whether it's just my mind. It might just be my mind.
In a way, though, he is trying to sell.
Yeah, I suppose. Yes. Sell this fair youth to a wife.
Yeah.
Or to a...
I suppose that's every time you are in love, you try to do that. You try to sell the person to your friends, but consciously or unconsciously, and you sort of try to sell it to yourself as well.
Yeah. I suppose the creepiness of this factor comes in is that this isn't Shakespeare's lover.
Yeah, this is basically another guy.
Yeah.
Well, as we said before, who knows what's going on when he puts down the pen.
Yes, that's true. Do you think it could be as simple as Shakespeare was the ultimate wingman?
Right.
They would go out cruising around the bars.
Shakespeare is the original author of the Bro Code.
Yeah. Shakespeare's Bro Code. I can see Shakespeare cruising around the bar with his fair youth and just going up to all the women and just dropping to a knee and reading a sonnet trying to get this woman to sleep with this man.
And then the woman goes home with him.
Yes. Yes, and yeah, the worst wingman in the world is Shakespeare. Wow, I think we've come to a conclusion now. Do you want to read out this poem? I don't know how long we've been recording for, but that sounds in my head.
15 minutes. I don't
Yeah.
know. I started recording a bit earlier, but yeah.
I will let you read, and then we can go on to the next one.
Sonnet 21. So is it not with me with... Wow. I didn't even get across the first line.
The first line is there's so many little words that are in the
you
wrong
just-
order
yeah.
for modern English, and I think that's the problem with a lot of this poem. Actually, suffers from that. The words are in a different order than you would
They
expect.
were probably in the wrong order for the time as well. It's trying to get the rhythm and the rhymes in. Sonnet 21. So is it not with me as with that Muse, stirred by a painted beauty to his verse, who heaven itself for ornament doth use, and every fair with his fair doth rehearse, making a couplement of proud compare, with sun and moon, with earth and sea's rich gems, with April's first-born flowers, and all things rare, that heaven's air in this huge rondure hems. Oh, let me truly love, but truly right, and then believe me, my love is as fair as any mother's child, though not so bright as those gold candles fixed in heaven's air. Let them say more that like hit the
Just those words in the order again.
Let them say more that like of hearsay well, I will not pray. This poem is brought to you by Thierry Heles. Let them say more that like of hearsay well, I will not praise that purpose not to sell. Oh god, that was a tough one.
These four, we record them in fours. These four are all tough. That was Sonnet 21 from Shakespeare's Sonnets. Thank you for joining us again. I've been Mark Chatterley.
I have been Thierry Heles.
And we will see you again next time for Sonnet 22, and hopefully that'll be easier to read.
Goodbye.
Bye. You've been listening to Shakespeare's Sonnets with Mark Chatterley and Thierry Heles. This has been an In-Ear Entertainment podcast. To listen to other podcasts or find out more about In-Ear Entertainment, go to www.inearentertainment.com.